Hello, I'm the Sonora Desert Grower. I've been doing this thing where I've been searching YouTube for videos on how to garden in Arizona, what people are doing. Today, we're going to be looking at what people think a food forest is. So I found this video. It was published May 22nd, 2021, and the title is 5-Year-Old Food Forest in Arizona, Visiting the Old Farm. I'm gonna skip through a bunch of this stuff because it's 22 minutes long.
Taking you guys to a special place for all of us if you've been following us for a while. And it actually isn't very far from the farm. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne with Edge of Nowhere Farm, and we're coming to here. It is a beautiful May morning here in 2021. So if you guys have been following us along at all for the last year, about 10 feet tall, and I'm guessing it's probably just as wide. Real dense. You know, we talk about this particular variety all the time being a real vertical type tree, and you can see just how much that's the case. And this thing is completely loaded with fruit.
Okay, so what I'm noticing is that there's no water harvesting happening here whatsoever. The water from the roof is just going to the bare soil. There's no basins here, or at least it doesn't seem to be no basins. There's no berms here. It's sloped this way, and doesn't seem like these are in well-mulched basins that harvest rainwater. So it's kind of typical.
Mulberry tree here, again, they're just going to town on the base of the mulberry tree, and that is a weeping Santa Rosa, which looks fantastic. A lot of fruit set on there. So obviously here at the front of the house is not really where the majority of the farm is. So what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna show you guys a little bit of drone footage, because for those of you who have been with us for a while, you were always asking us for kind of over the top footage to see what's looks.
Again, I'm noticing no mulch, no earthworks, um, no rainwater harvesting whatsoever. The neighbor here has pines. So this is definitely a water intensive landscape right here. At least they're not watering the grass. It probably was there when they bought the house.
And what they're doing with the place is just incredible. You know, they've really taken it and run with it, which is just amazing to Lori and I. You got a tractor? I'm a little jealous because I didn't have one here, and you know you need it. You have the blackjack fig right there. You can see that's more of a dwarfing fig tree. You can see how amazing it's doing. The roses in the background are incredible. And then this nectarine tree right here is just going nuts. So you guys know we had the moringa tree failure. We were talking about that earlier. Just a bummer that that thing failed. But in the back, you'll see there, that is the bay leaf tree. That bay leaf tree is probably 12 to 13 feet tall, and it's a good 5 to 6 feet across.
So I'm not opposed to necessarily the plant selection. Um, the bay leaf is actually water tolerant. You can have some roses, you can have some fruit trees. It's just there's just a lot of this, and the water's not going to be there to sustain this, right? So what happens when the water restrictions hit the cities and you can't irrigate your landscape? What's going to happen to these plants? There's no native plants so far. There's no, they're not tapping in to the Sonoran Desert food forest, the actual food forest of the ecosystem we inhabit here.
So bay leaf just doing amazing here in Arizona. To see that gets me really excited. And of course, that's an expensive herb. You got the grapevines here that are putting on amazing growth here in the early summer for us. Grapes is just going to be amazing.
Each one of these trees will easily take like 7,000 gallons of water or more. And that's when they're kind of at this stage.
Spacing that they're at least 15 to 20 feet across. So just amazing growth on these trees. And it's even kind of hard to see the Shinseki pear on the back side of these two. This first row behind me here, these are the first sets of trees that went in the ground. At this point, these trees have all been in the ground for about 5 to 6 years. There's a few exceptions, but for the most part, these are 5 to 6 year old fruit trees here in Arizona.
So same thing with all these trees. Each one of these trees, we're talking 7,000 gallons of water or more. And there are so many of these, right? So the question is always going to be, where does the water come for agriculture in Arizona? Whether you're doing it on a big scale or a small scale. And this is kind of the modus operandi. You just go into space and you don't do any water harvesting. You just put plants where you want them and you turn the water on. So there's no plan for the mega drought that we're in. And this was last year. So this is a 6-year-old food forest. It's an orchard. It's not tapping in to the food forest that actually exists here.
Here in Arizona, each one of these trees is a good 12 to 15 feet tall or more, probably about the same width. Many of them are just loaded with fruit. As you can see, they're growing into what was the row between the orchard rows. I'll point out a couple of these, but for the most part, I'm just gonna let you guys enjoy the trees as we walk through. You can see there's just huge, massive clusters all over the tree. There's fruit basically throughout from the.
So again, the plant selection is better than most. All the fruit trees that are being showcased here actually do really well versus mangoes, bananas. These are pretty hardy trees that will produce well. Most of them you can find with low chill hours. For example, apples and grapes, peaches, you could usually find varieties with 400 chill hours or less. So I'm not opposed to that necessarily. It's just the sheer amount of them. The fact that there's no water being harvested in terms of when it rains. And the plan is just to irrigate it with the tap water, which is running out. So they're gonna have to let go of these trees. That's where the disconnect is.
Bottom of the tree all the way up through the top. Hundreds of pieces of fruit on this one apple tree here in Arizona.
I guess another way to look at it is you'll get a lot of fruit before you have to chop them down.
Tendency to get a little mealy pretty fast, but very, very sweet apples, and they really complement the Anna and the Dorset, which are more. You can see the size of these berries. That's pushing 2 inches there. There are larger berries.
Again, mulberries do really well here, and they get ginormous. The problem is not the selection in this video. The problem is just how much is being done without really thinking about the water.
Loquats have a special place in my heart because I grew up in Southern California, and these literally grow on the side of the roads.
Loquats do really well here, and they're perennial, so
There, and they grow like this. Now, of course, this one takes watering and care, but they grow like crazy. And this tree, you guys, is completely loaded with fruit.
so again, you gotta think about the water. You gotta plant the rain first. Like, you can do what they're doing, but you can't do it forever. There's gonna be, you're gonna hit a wall at some point because we're in the desert. Lake Powell's drying up, Lake Mead is drying up. They're cutting 500,000 acre-feet of water to Arizona. Within the next couple of years, we're gonna see water restrictions in the cities. So, I mean, there's already municipalities losing their water. And these folks are just lucky enough to be in an area where they still have water. So again, to me, this is not a food forest. This is just an orchard. And there's nothing wrong with that, but this is not food forest theory. Food forest theory is establishing a relationship with plants that are edible or medicinal, that offer some kind of value to us as humans inhabiting a space. So normally that would be either some kind of medicinal value, some kind of edible aspect to it, or even like firewood, things like that. If you have a lot of property, if you have a lot of land. So here in the Sonoran Desert, we're talking about mesquite, palo verde, ironwoods. Those are going to be the main three that are edible trees and that provide you shade and can survive on rainwater, and not only survive but thrive. And then you have a whole other set of plants that you can work into the landscape that can survive off of the minimal rainwater that we have and are edible. So that would be an actual food forest in Arizona in the Sonoran Desert. Again, this is just an orchard, and you can't make the mistake of thinking that this is a food forest. It's not tapping into the ecosystem that it's a part of. It's not regenerative. Maybe if we're in an area where it rained a lot, you could get away with something like this, because the main thing that makes it not a food forest is that the water resources are not there. So it's technically not a food forest, right? It can't regenerate itself. A forest has the ability to regenerate itself. So in the Sonoran Desert, that looks different. The mesquites, the palo verdes, the ironwoods, they can all propagate themselves if they're in an area that is harvesting rainwater. It will just happen naturally. And it doesn't need a human to be involved, right? It can just do it on its own once the system is in place. And that's the major difference. And it can survive water restrictions. So just kind of keep that in mind. This is going to go into the water offender series because there's a lot of water being used here, but it's not as offensive as mangoes and bananas and stuff like that. So there's kind of levels to it. Um, I guess you can do this until the wheels fall off and they cut the amount of water you can use, and you have to chop some trees down. You'll get a lot of fruit until then, but there is going to be a certain point where this is going to be a thing of the past. And whether that's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I'm not really sure, but it is happening, right? People are losing water right now. There's communities right now that don't have water. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of years. But I definitely think that this idea of what a food forest is in Arizona is antiquated and it's gonna get phased out just by the reality of having less water resources. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up this video. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with someone that you think would enjoy it. I have a Patreon if you want to get early access to this sort of content, and there's full-blown tutorials that are exclusive to the Patreon community. If you would like to sign up, go to www.patreon.com/the Sonoran Desert Grower. Thank you.